Hi, I'm Kenna. Welcome to my channel. Today I am going to be ranking all of Sarah J. Maas's books minus A Court of Silver Flames because I haven't read it yet because I hate Nesta. So yeah, and now I'm just waiting for it to come out in paperback, and it was supposed to come out in paperback like 2 weeks ago, but it got pushed back because a bunch of books are getting pushed back because there's some sort of shortage somewhere along the line of book production. Anyways, I'm going to be ranking her 14 other books. That is impressive. I started reading Sarah J. Maas when I was 14. I fell in love with her, and I've been reading her ever since. Every single book that comes out, I read when it comes out. Minus A Court of Silver Flames, because I hate Nesta. Maybe I should do a reread. Maybe I won't hate her as much. I haven't reread these books in a while. My most recent rereads were Heir of Fire and Queen of Shadows, because those are two of my favorite in the Throne of Glass series, so I was like, let me reread those. If I do happen to do a reread, this could change. This is fluid. You know, when I first would have ranked this is probably different than how I would rank it now. Sorry, that's all unnecessary chatter. Here we go. We're gonna go least favorite to favorite. So, starting at number 14, you can probably see the corner, and I don't think you'll be surprised. It's A Court of Frost and Starlight. It was boring. Nothing happened. The, story, it was just kind of like a look into the characters' lives. It wasn't really like a story, and I didn't care. I don't need to know this about them. So, this is the only Sarah J. Maas book that I ever thought was boring. Next, number 13 is Crown of Midnight. This is my least favorite in the Throne of Glass series because it's like right before the good stuff starts to happen and after a lot of good stuff happened. So like we got set in motion with the first book, and then it kind of stalls here because at the time, I just know this because I'm too much of a fan, but at the time she was only signed on for a trilogy because the first book wasn't doing that well, but then it did well, so she got signed on for more books. So that's why this is like this, is because it was only going to be a trilogy, so she kind of had to keep it mellow. And then in Heir of Fire she really starts off on like the overarching plot, so that's why that's like this, and that's why it wasn't my favorite. It's because it was kind of not as fun or interesting or relevant as the others. Like, do you even remember one of the main guys' names in this? Archer? Do you even know who he is? Yeah, exactly. I only know because I was getting my sister to read it. Okay, number 12. The Assassin's Blade. I read this way too late in the game. I think I read it after Queen of Shadows, so like important stuff that got set up by this book followed through in Queen of Shadows and Heir of Fire, and I should have read this first so that I was in the know and the pain would have hurt more and the connections would have awed me more. But yeah, I've just never been a huge short story person, so it was good though. I liked it. I liked the stories. Okay, that was number 12. Number 11 is Tower of Dawn, because unpopular opinion, I was always on Team Kale for Selena, because I always root for the person that is least likely to be with the main character, because that's the one that I always like more. And then obviously I kind of hated him, but not really, because I could see his logic throughout the story. Anyways, this was just good. It was good. A lot of important stuff happens, but it's just not one of my favorites. Number 10, A Court of Thorns and Roses. Yes, can I stop the light, please? I have the old covers. Yeah. OG fan, brother. I was very nervous about the first person point of view, and I liked it a lot more than I thought I would. I loved this book. I did. I thought it was so good. Some people hated the first book and then loved the second one, but I loved this one as it was. So, yeah. Yeah, that's just where it sits on the ranking. Number 9 is Throne of Glass. I kind of talked about this in my last video. This book was just a huge turning point in like my life, basically. So I love it so much. It gave me so much. It got me back into reading, and it really sparked my love for reading again. Because I kind of fell off of it and I was like, yeah, I guess I read. Reading's okay. And then I read this and fell in love with reading again. So I love this book. But it's not as great as the others in the series because those have more incredible things going on. Number 8. House of Sky and Breath. I didn't love it as much as the first one. And it did make me cry. I did love the characters. I have a bone, okay. One thing that I don't like very much is how everyone is in love with the main character. I'm like, okay, pass. It just annoys me. Like, why? Like, I get that she's great, but not everyone can be in love. Like, it just annoyed me. I was like, that's not how the real world works. That's not how the real world works. Obviously, this is not the real world. It just annoyed me. It just annoyed me. And this was right after I started annotating. So it looks like I loved it more than the other books. But I don't. But I still did love it. Mostly because of the end. IYKYK. Hashtag IYKYK. Number 7. A Court of Wings and Ruin. Yes, there are problematic things, but the ending was just so good. Obviously, I'm not gonna get into it and spoil the plot, but it really just felt like a good closure. Felt like a good ending. I'll just leave it there. It was good. Number 6 is Heir of Fire. When I first read this, I struggled because we get introduced to new characters and I was like, I don't care about these people. But then I did. Then I really, really did. I loved it. Probably for the first, maybe 100 pages, I was like, why is this happening? And then after that, I was like, absolutely in love. Absolutely in love with the characters. It's just so good, and one of the best relationships in any of Sarah J Maas's books starts in this book. So good. I love that one. Number 5 is Crescent City, or House of Earth and Blood. This I loved. The last 100 pages had me on the edge of my seat. Like, it was so nerve-wracking. It was so good. I literally could not handle it. I'm a very reactive reader, so if something crazy is happening, then I'm like, I scream, I gasp. My friends love watching me read, like if I'm in the living room, because I do stuff like that because because I just get so excited. And that was the whole last 100 pages. I think I had tears in my eyes. I had so many tears in my eyes because my favorite part about this book is that friendship was such a big focus, and I loved that. Like the whole found family, friendship, because friendships I feel like do sometimes run deeper than romantic relationships, and you could just feel that in this book. So good. Loved it. Number 4 is Empire of Stone. This book, I just remember being in shock the whole book and the ending. There are sort of a lot of extra little things that I was like, why didn't we get into that a little bit more? Or that character, you're making them seem important, but we never really got to know why they were so important or why we should think that they are so important. That sort of thing. But it's set up for the last book perfectly, so well. And the thing that I hate about this book is that it doesn't look as big as the others. it looks like it's shorter, but it's longer because they changed to tissue paper pages, which I understand because it is really long. And if they had the old, nice, sturdy pages, it would be like this thick and cost probably a lot because it's heavy, costs a lot to produce. So I get why they use tissue paper pages, but I still wish that they had the old pages. But anyways, I loved it. Loved it. Cried. Number 3, A Court of Mist and Fury. The best book of the trilogy. Everyone agrees on this. 95% of people agree on this. I mean, what can I say about it? Like, the relationship arc, just the way the story progresses, the development, it's all so good. It's all so good. The characters that Sarah J. Maas is so good at constructing. I loved it. Okay. It's number 3 for a reason. Number 2, you all been waiting for this one because you're like, wait, why is this above this? It's Queen of Shadows. Because for the longest time, my favorite scene in any Sarah J. Maas book was in this book. And it just hits so hard. And I can't tell you why. Because one of the POVs in here, I didn't really care. I would like skim it. Still do. Don't really care about what's happening there, to be honest. But the point of view that matters is so good. It literally, because I guess it's because it very much involves my favorite relationship in the series. So that's probably why, because like a major moment for them happens in this book. And it's probably a scene that you don't even think about ever. But to me, I was like, that is the best scene ever. So I love this book, Queen of Shadows Supremacy, and I will stand by that. This is the one that I've reread the most because I love it. Okay, this stack is getting perilous. Okay, and then my favorite Sarah J. Maas book. If you haven't figured it out by now, you're not a Sarah J. Maas fan. Because, like, obviously, it's Kingdom of Ash, which, like, I don't even know what to say. It was such a good ending to the series, except for one thing that everyone hates, and if you've read it, you know what I'm talking about, but again, no spoilers. But it just wrapped up the series so well. Like, it pulled everything together. Everything you still had questions about, it answered. Like, it was just so good. And I've said it once and I'll say it again. The hardest I've ever cried at any book ever was to this book. There are many scenes that probably could induce that, but there's one in particular that made me sob. At the time I was reading this, I was sharing a hotel room with my mom and my sister, and I was sharing a bed with my sister, and I couldn't stop sobbing. And she was like, it was kind of like quiet, but like my whole body was shaking, so it was shaking the bed, and she was like, stop crying, it's just a book. And I was like, I know. Like, my whole body is shaking because I couldn't stop crying. I was so upset. I couldn't control my emotions. I couldn't, because it was just so heartbreaking. Again, another reason that I found it so is because I read this, I've been reading this series ever since I was 14 years old. So this book was like years in the waiting for me, right? Like, I went through the stages of building up to this book. Sorry, Harry keeps staring at me because I have a poster of him and my closet door's open, so he's literally like looking right at me. It's like that painting where when you move, their eyes move. Anyways, so like my whole high school career led up to this book, and like the amount of extra media that I consumed for this, you know, fan art, like Instagram accounts, Pinterest, like fan fiction. I don't really like reading fan fiction of books. Anyways, I devoted so much time to this series. And so it was a very satisfying ending. And since it was all coming to a head, that made me very emotional. So I also just cried very hard about that. That was a rant, and I'm sorry for that. but I just can't help it because this book was like her magnum opus. I swear. It still is for me. I think it's her magnum opus. Yeah. Even after all the new stuff. I don't know if she would agree. I would like to think she would agree. Those are all my favorite Sarah J. Maas books in order. Starting with A Court Across the Starlight and ending with Kingdom of Ash. Just to wrap it up. If you have strong feelings, let me know. If you have subtle feelings, let me know. And I don't have much else to say. Thanks for watching. Oh, I was inspired by, I did this because of Pullin' Bananas books, Christine. I've subscribed to her since 2017. And she did this the other week. And so I was like, oh, I should do that because I wonder what my ranking is. It did take me a while to figure out. Mostly like the middle is hard to figure out. Like my least favorites were easy to know and my favorites were easy to know. But when I got to the middle, I was like, oh, that's always the hardest part. Okay. Those are all Sarah J. Maas's books ranked to my personal opinion. Thanks for watching. Maybe I'll do Leigh Bardugo next because I love her books. Or if there's anything else that could be ranked. I'm looking at my bookshelf. These? Just kidding, no one reads these but me. I have great fondness for this series. See you next time.